A tweeter writes in, so if the USA is ranked 16 in the world rankings and the team makes it into the round of 16, shouldn't that be expected? Now, get another win, and then we are pleasantly surprised, but I don't see this as some kind of massive achievement.
He's that guy.
I hit send on that, huh?
I mean, it sounds right. Is it not? I mean, the U.S. is not ranked number 16 in the world.
They are now.
Well, correct. Yeah. They are one of the 16 best teams in the world.
Wait, what are they ranked then?
You know what? I think they're somewhere in that neighborhood. But yeah, I mean, it's still nervy. I mean, we watched the game yesterday. We were nervous as shit at the end of that. Like, it's not. I think the U.S. heading into this World Cup had won 8 ever games at the World Cup. 8. Win all the tournaments that they've entered since 1950.
What? How is that possible?
They've won 8 games.
I feel like I've seen like 15 or 16 of them.
No, it's not that easy to win at this tournament. We all saw it. It was hard as hell.
Right.
It was hard to beat
For
Iran.
some teams, yes.
Well, it's hard when you can't score goals.
Right.
I mean,
we have that problem.
It was so frustrating watching that back post be open the entire game when their entire offensive strategy is cross it in. Like, you don't have a single player that will rip it from the top of the box. You just have guys that are going to dribble into the corner and cross it, and you're leaving the back post open the entire time, and it's wide open net. It was driving me crazy.
You make it sound very easy.
Well,
I mean,
for some teams it is.
It is a cliche. You always want someone on the back stick to be there.
They have guys in the box.
That's one of Christian Pulisic's greatest skill. It's frankly the skill that we saw on the goal. Yeah. He is very good at that. But you're right. In the overall, particularly from set pieces, there are more opportunities than the U.S. take advantage of. On counterattacks, there are more opportunities than the U.S. take advantage of. Why are we comprehensively breaking down when we should be celebrating? We should be full of joy.
Yet.
What do you mean
we're nervous. Christian Pulisic, is he going to play?
What
happens next?
He said he's going to play.
Yeah.
He's going to be fine for the Netherlands. Listen, you have him ranked 16th. Me and Billy have him ranked number 1.
That's right.
Yep.
How about this, Pulisic? Wear a cup, okay? Like, if it's such an important game, don't put yourself in that spot. Wear a cup.
The World Cup?
Wittyngham, you were on CNN last night with Grant Wall. With Grant Wall doing football, incidentally, for all of our World Cup coverage, and we've got plenty of it, some would say too much of it, the best job of covering everything in the World Cup was done by God Bless Football last night. The most thorough and comprehensive of the work done anywhere. You can find it in our feed. It is all of the information you need. Why are you laughing?
It really summed up the day. I mean, it did. Thank you.
There was, I believe, the best coverage you will find anywhere in the world. I know that Wittyngham and Mike Ryan, I'm not kidding about this when I tell you that they are authorities on this subject. We don't get to be authorities on many subjects around here, but CNN summoned them for their expertise because they have a lot of knowledge about all the teams in the world, all the strengths and weaknesses, and the historical ramifications of the United States getting this far in the tournament of excitement. But the best coverage, even though we've teamed with Apple and Coach Beard and Rebecca Lowe on a very popular podcast, top 10 in the United States right now, not just in sports, just in general. And we've got an assortment of other offerings. God Bless Football. I urge you to check it out. It will enlighten you. It's the best one they've done so far.
Well, thank you.
And Billy and Stugotz are firmly on the bandwagon. I believe Stugotz was rooting for a 0-0 tie that eliminated the United States so he could come in here and rip them.
I just like to say the only 2 people in this entire studio that said that the U.S. was going to get out of the group was Stugotz and myself.
Yep.
Well,
so
you guys
this
have been
bandwagon business. I don't know what we're talking about here.
Exactly.
You guys have been keeping track, have you not? Who can and cannot now root for the United States, right? You have not allowed Wittyngham to root for Tua because he wasn't positive enough at the beginning of the season.
Wittyngham is out on the United States. Mike Ryan is out. You're out. You wore Iranian green yesterday.
Yeah.
We're debating Smetty, maybe Chris Cody. Right now, it's just me, Billy, and Greg Cody.
I think I'm in. I'm a huge U.S. men's national team fan. Also a fan of England, the Netherlands, France. Who else is in the group of 16? Senegal.
Wittyngham, when you were on CNN last night, this is the real test because you've been all around our network saying the phrase normalize the penis. And you have wanted, you're really the only person I've heard in America saying again and again, this is anatomically correct in a sporting match. We don't have to talk around it. Just call it the penis and get over your awkwardness. And yet when your hair was slicked back on CNN yesterday and they tossed the balls to you, you went pelvic. You did not normalize the penis once the pressure of CNN was around it. You could have argued on CNN, hey, I'm saying penis here. I'm saying it purposely. You had an international audience. You chose not to do it. I think you respected the stage too much.
I mean, to be fair, my first public use of the word penis was on network television. So I'll back myself in that respect.
But last night, were you tempted? Because the opportunity was there for you. It was there, and you would have titillated and excited our audience if you had dared to do it with the penis.
Yeah, you know what? I will grant you, though, that like I did go into CNN mode. Where I was not thinking at all. I was not thinking at all about how could I make this funny? How could I potentially say the word penis here?
You've learned nothing. You've learned nothing around here from us.
Well, what's surprising about this, though? I mean, he's on CNN. He's Chris Wittyngham. He's not going to,
I think he didn't want to say it in front of Grant Wall because Grant is a respected journalist, and you didn't want to embarrass Grant on CNN. You don't really care about respecting CNN. This is Grant's reputation that now you're besmirching.
I mean, to be fair, he not only encouraged me to say penis on television, but he solicited the advice of his wife, Dr. Celine Gounder, and said that I should probably use testicles instead, because that is the more likely place to be a source of pain rather than penis. However, yeah, it was one of those things where I was sort of put in a position to like give the official U.S. soccer statement on what was said when they put out he had a pelvic contusion. To Stugotz's point, I think he'll be fine. There was video of him celebrating.
He was hospitalized for getting hit in the testicles.
I know, but he was fine. Like he sent out a picture. Yeah, I'm good. And he was at the team hotel and like looked as happy as anyone on the U.S. team. That video was so cool. Of just watch. Like he had this like childlike open mouth. Like, isn't this awesome, guys? Holy shit, this is awesome! Oh my god! And he was celebrating with everyone. He's gonna be fine. Pelvic contusion. Whether his balls hurt or his penis hurts or whatever.
Testicles.
His
testicles. I mean, maybe I should have said it on CNN.
What did you think was going to happen? Like CNN was going to offer you a job if you didn't say penis? Like, what was the upside?
I mean,
that was a job interview of sorts for you, was it not?
It's a stage, man.
You would love to be a news anchor.
You're on AC 360. I didn't like... I wasn't out last night.
Was AC there?
No, AC was out.
Then you weren't on AC.
Teacher, exactly right.
I was on with John Berman. John Berman's great.
John Berman is great.
John Berman's great.
But you were not on AC 360, just so we're clear.
I mean, the show is called AC 360.
Yeah, but Berman was hosting.
Yeah.
Okay, but either way, I was on primetime CNN, and it turns out that people watch CNN. Because
Wittyngham, go sit in the penalty box. Go sit in the penalty box for 2 minutes right now. I'm so tired of just generally hearing you talk here for a long time, and you've offended me by not learning the sensibilities of this show. You can't give me the bona fides of CNN as the reason that you didn't say penis. You've learned nothing.
2 minutes for talking.
There was a report from a reporter after the game that said, asked about Pulisic and got, quote, balls, his balls, end quote. And then said, not abdominal, game-winning balls, literally. Wow. So I think balls is fair if that's the report that's coming out afterwards. You don't have to say pelvis or penis. Yeah. This guy said balls. It's balls, his balls.
Guillermo, put it on the poll, please, at LeBatardShow. Have you ever been shaking your fist with joy for being hospitalized for your bruised balls? Because Pulisic isn't much of a personality. He does not have a lot of charisma. And that's about as much joy as you will see from him. And furthermore, we're suddenly winning our bets around here. I think we were plus 800 on the parlay. Pulisic to score the first goal combined with the U.S. winning. I believe that was a plus 700 or plus 800 parlay.
It was. We should thank Greg Cody, by the way, because Greg Cody said it on God Bless Football. He said Pulisic would score a goal. I told Mike Ryan he said it. Mike Ryan liked the bet, and then Mike Ryan ran with that bet. So good job out of Greg.
Well, Pulisic's whole personality is that he's like he was born to have this moment in this game, right? Like he's this American soccer phenom. This is finally his chance to score a World Cup goal, and he does off of his balls, and he can't even celebrate the goal. Like if in a way, like it's memorable because of the photo that went viral afterwards of him in the hospital with like the little thingy on his finger, like celebrating. But it is such a bummer to not be able to celebrate that huge moment that he's worked for his entire life because of the way that he was injured in the process of getting the ball across the line.
Well, win the next game, and then he can celebrate that one, and then that'll be a big one. Use it as motivation.
They need to score more goals, all right? They've scored 2 goals in 3 games. It's ridiculous.
Unacceptable.
We need more goals.
Yeah.
We need to just get the ball in the net. That's my analysis. No more of this 1-0, 0-0 bullshit. Score some goals.
You know what? I'm not going to criticize today. I'm not going to do it. I have asked the United States. I asked them yesterday for a day. They provided us with a day. I hugged a stranger yesterday. I did. I had a great day. I'm not going to complain. We're out of the group stage. We're into the quarterfinals, or what is it? The Sweet 16, whatever you
Round
call
of
it.
16.
Sweet 16.
Okay, it's win or go home. I'm not going to criticize. If they're going to win games 1-0, I'm good with them winning games 1-0 as long as they win the game. That's it. I mean, that's a great job out of the U.S. men's soccer team. Yeah.
Also, props to FIFA because that game against the Netherlands is Saturday before the Big 12 championship game kicks off. So really,
props to
really
FIFA for just
excited about
scheduling the
Shout
way
out to
that
FIFA.
Yeah,
works
shout
around
out to
your
FIFA.
college football
Yeah.
viewing habits.
Yeah. Yep.
that. Yeah,
No Aaron Judge moments here, Dan.
no cut-ins.
The U.S. needs a statement game, though. I mean, I think Jess is right about that. They need to announce to the world, we're here, we're going nowhere unless we lose the next game. You know what I mean? And they haven't had that yet. They've only had these 1-goal, 0-goal situations. They need a big statement game.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't it. They got.
That was Iran.
I mean, England drawing against England. England was.
That's a draw.
But
I think Billy's talking about a victory over a team like England.
But England's better than they are.
2-3 goals. No, please.
Then who?
Than the United
No, they're
States.
not.
Debatable.
At what?
I mean, they are favored against the United States wherever they play in the world.
They're significantly better than the United States.
At what?
Well,
do
then
you
why
mean?
couldn't they
At
score a
soccer.
goal?
At the
No,
game
I
of
don't
soccer.
think
You said they dominated that 0-0 tie.
right.
I mean,
You keep like
0-0 draw.
you keep saying that like people said that the
They
U.S.
did.
dominated. No one said the
You
U.S.
said.
dominated. I said the U.S. were the better team. I didn't say they
Right.
dominated.
Case in point, we're better than England.
That's
Yep.
right.
They were the better team on the day. But
Yeah,
like in the
well,
overall,
that's the day that mattered.
their 6th reserve forward would be the greatest ever American player.
Ever?
that's
Ever.
blasphemy.
Yeah. I mean,
Phil,
geez.
like
You
Phil,
hate America.
Phil
Red
Foden,
coat.
who like couldn't even come off the bench for that team, is like an order of magnitude better than any American that has ever played.
Oh, enough with these British and their orders, please.
I can't help but smile and thoroughly enjoy the idea that Wittyngham and Mike Ryan have more thorough knowledge
They
of
don't
this.
know shit. They've been wrong about everything.
Well, this
so
is
far.
my point.
Exactly
that's,
right.
That's the point that I was
In
going to make.
2 days in a row, we've had successful winning bets.
Hurly
so.
burly, huster bluster is all I'm hearing.
You guys didn't see the penis shot coming, so
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Do you have regret, Wittyngham? Have you been sufficiently chastened by the penalty box visit? You failed in not going on CNN and being your most authentic self. Or maybe that is your most authentic self, a repressed, serious soccer guy who will not freely talk about the penis.
I mean, he asked me a question about Christian Pulisic's impact at the World Cup, and it would be pigeonholing to say, oh yeah, and also he got hit in the penis. Like
You were lobbed the opportunity to talk about
It's
how
not
much of a concern his injury was, and you said, not that much of a concern, it's a concern. You actually Stugotzed it in that at the start.
Well done.
At the start, you had one thought, and by the end, you had made it more of a concern than it was at the start after you talked it through. And in there, I thought was your opening to just talk about the penis. Talk about the normalization of the penis. Now, I hate to critique your performance.
How great was that? Like just a diatribe in the middle of that.
Yes.
Now, for a moment,
Enough World Cup
Christian
talk.
Pulisic has been fantastic in this World Cup. However, you got hit in the penis, and on the broadcast, they insisted on saying junk or an area where you wouldn't want to get hit. Wouldn't it just be better if people just said penis? Like if I stopped to do that in the middle of a CNN hit.
Yeah.
It also would have
Yes.
been very strange.
No.
this is why we're all mad at you.
This was all to impress some dude named John Berman.
Yeah.
Wittyngham, do you realize how many more people would have seen that clip? You already had the people who were there for your level of concern over the Pulisic injury. They were going to listen to you anyway. Once you guys come on, you and Grant Wall are on, and they're interested in soccer, they're going to be there. Now you can go viral by making the host deeply uncomfortable with your normalize the penis crusade.
I'd like to take this one step further. I think you blew it. I think you had a golden opportunity and you blew it, because what happens? Okay, Anderson Cooper is out. It's AC 360, right? So he's just thinking, you know what? This is one of those days I'm on vacation. I'm wherever it is, doing whatever it is that I'm doing, right? Doesn't hear anything about the show, comes back whenever he comes back, business as usual, right? But had you done the penis thing, he comes back and they're like, yo, AC, did you see the clip that went viral when you were gone? It was a guy talking about the penis. And then he's like, man, we should get him back on. But it's the end of the year. What's going on? What should we do? Oh, New Year's with Andy Cohen.
Right.
Let's get Penis Guy on with us.
Yes.
So you and AC and Andy Cohen, also AC.
AC 720.
AC 720 and you and Chris Wittyngham could have been hosting the New Year's Eve show together on CNN, talking about penises, doing shots, doing whatever it is that you guys do, seeing the balls drop, all that situation.
We discussed that.
He aspires to be so much more than we call the penis guy.
Why?
What do you mean, why?
Why?
What do you mean, why?
You're on AC 720 celebrating the New Year's ball dropping. Like, that would be awesome.
First
That's a
off,
dream.
that show doesn't have alcohol anymore. We discussed this the other day.
Oh,
it's going to
take
be
it.
more boring instead.
No, you could take it as Penis Guy. You could take the alcohol, and they're not going to
No.
do anything about it. They'll be like, it's just Penis Guy. He brings the alcohol everywhere he goes. Penis Guy.
Have I not done enough for this cause?
No.
Do I really have to go on CNN? Have I not ruined my career enough for you people?
This was a major branding play for you, and you dropped the ball.
Can I rebrand? Am I allowed to rebrand?
No.
Drop the balls. Can I rebrand? I just am hurt, and I would go a step further, offended.
Same.
That once you would get to the grandiose platform of respectable CNN, which basically has less credibility than it's ever had, you would then be afraid to be your most peacocking self.
I wasn't afraid. I honestly just didn't give.
Even worse.
I was just trying to give a cogent soccer take in 38 seconds because I was afraid of droning. Honestly, my only concern is don't be long-winded. Just don't.
Why didn't you think about that earlier today?
We all feel hurt. Wittyngham really feels like a hit in the balls.
Yeah. I feel worse than Christian Pulisic today, to be honest with you, after seeing that performance.
Do you now feel bad about it, Wittyngham, or no, you would do it again? Just know that over the years, we have asked any number of professional broadcasters, respected, to drop into the broadcast something for our fans that's just for them on the inside. We've done it for many, many years, and the only ones who haven't done it are the total stiffs.
Yep.
Then you know what? I will accept the branding of Total Stiff. If that's the rebrand from the Penis Guy to Total Stiff, good for me, Clive.
Better
You want to
than
go
the totally
from
stiff penis
Yeah,
guy.
you want to go from penis to totally stiff as your rebrand.
That's correct.
Wittyngham, I'm sending you to the penalty box again.
Wow, unbelievable. For what
Get
this
outta here.
time? I mean,
Just general,
Disappointment?
not having the sensibilities of the show in mind wherever it is that he goes.
this is the biggest day of his life, of his young life. You keep sending him to the box. He wants to talk soccer. I mean,
There will be plenty of time to do that. He's been talking enough about it. The reason he is long-winded is because what's happened to Max Kellerman and Stephen A. Smith, I've told you this, their wives and partners have told them since doing First Take, you come home and you talk a lot more than you need to because they got to fill 2 hours of content. Him and Mike are talking so much these days in so many different places that even off air, you find them talking too much. So he goes into CNN, instead of thinking about the penis, he goes, just don't be long-winded.
I think we all do this now. I was on a 10-hour road trip on Sunday through the state of Florida, and I talked the entire time. I don't think my boyfriend got a word in. I think I just talked the whole time. Everything. College football playoffs, Formula One, Florida, Miami, the LeBatard show, just for 10 hours straight.
did he say anything?
No.
No, he just
Drove.
he let you keep going?
Drove.
Really?
Cruise control.
It does distort you. I wanted to get into some stuff here with the Dolphins as they head into what, Billy? The Dookie?
Hey.
The Duke. It's a fun.
Yeah.
Fifth ranked international football broadcaster, according to The Guardian.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to the Buffalo-Miami game? Because Billy has said
Buffalo?
They're headed to a Trident. It's not a measuring stick. It's a measuring trident. They are playing the Chargers and the 49ers on the road. The Chargers game has been flexed to that's great. Herbert.
It should be flexed.
Herbert,
It's a Super Bowl.
And Tua on December 11th.
It's for everything.
But I heard you giddily talking around here about going to Buffalo. You've been wanting to take a trip with Bob the engineer.
I have been, yeah.
He lives in Buffalo.
Bobby Buffalo.
Greg
what they call him.
Greg Cody has wanted to, or Greg Cody has told us, and this is funny about Greg Cody, that he doesn't want to go to Buffalo and that he is too old and too distinguished and too accomplished to be sent by his newspaper to cover a December game, even though it's his job, and he would also be offended if they did not send him.
Is that a bad assignment?
They can't win the Herald. I mean,
Not with Greg Cody. You can never win with Greg Cody. He will get mad on either side, no matter what it is that you've done. But Buffalo is pretty terrible to get to, and then it's freezing cold, and I was confused when I heard Billy excitedly talking about wanting to go to Buffalo.
Well, I was trying to get a group trip to go up to Buffalo because, I mean, look, if we're going to be honest with you, I found out that, a little extra cash left in a budget that's sitting around here, and this is how it works. If the end of the year comes around and that doesn't get spent, then we lose that money for the budget next year. So I said, you know what? Let's have a group trip. Let's have a family trip up to Buffalo. It's a big game. We cover football. Stugotz has wanted to go on a bus tour for a long time. We're not going to do a bus tour, obviously. Let's go up to Buffalo. And then I thought, you know what? I'm a considerate person. Let me try to find a way to pinch some pennies here, save the company some money, even though this is a money-blowing venture. Let me try to find a way to save the company some money here. Let's stay at Bob's house in Buffalo. And Bob quickly said, you can't stay at my house. My cousin's staying there. And I said, okay, well, now we're going to have to find some lodging. And then I looked around and I saw no one seems to be in on this trip to Buffalo, except Tony, who said we should all get our own RVs and stay in the RVs and then drive those RVs over to the tailgate that we'll host in Buffalo. And I said, I don't think that we have the budget for like 6 or 7 RVs.
Billy, this Trident you speak of, it includes the Chargers, the Bills, and the 49ers.
That's right.
Of those 3 cities, you're choosing Buffalo?
Well, it's phase 3. So it's a big game. The Bills still haven't won a division game. The division could be decided in that game.
I know, but we could have chosen San Francisco, maybe L.A. Our friend Austin Eckler's out there. Little sideline
the LA
passes.
game is now on Sunday Night Football
I
as
know.
well.
Yeah, Steve Martin.
Yeah, it's a big game.
Steve Martin.
But the Buffalo feels like the real big game, right?
He just left by himself. He didn't. He just left for the penalty box by himself.
Yes!
I didn't even have to send him. He did.
So Dan, you're going to go to Buffalo? If we go to Buffalo, will you be going?
If you go, I will go.
Wow.
Really?
Well,
Wow.
you're because you're not going to go. I know you're not going to go. I know
I don't make the decisions
No, but you're
here.
all.
Do you know the amount of connecting flights you have to take to get to Buffalo?
Yeah, it's terrible. If you guys
Really?
go,
It
I'll
can't be
go.
more than one.
If you guys go, I'll go.
Well,
But I've just called you on your
right.
fraud. You have no intention of going.
hold on.
Neither
Does
one
Skip
of
have
you
a
two.
PJ? Why don't we all just, make it a company affair? Let's all just go together directly.
I don't want to go to
PJ.
Buffalo in December. I don't think the Dolphins want to go to Buffalo
Juju's
in
going to be there
December.
already. Juju's going to the game. He bought tickets. He will be at that
He's
game.
staying at Bob's.
Is he?
Why were you in here faking like you wanted to go to Buffalo?
I do wanna
when
go to
you don't
Buffalo.
act-
He
you weren't
does.
actually doing any planning, though. You were giddily talking about it, and it's all you did.
We have a
Giddily
planning
talked about it.
department. I'm in the ideas department.
He
Okay,
is.
like there's the planning department, the ideas department. I'm in the ideas department. I throw the ideas out there, and then I kind of leave it for the planning department
Like
to handle
Bimini.
the planning. Yeah, like Bimini. We could have been at Bimini celebrating women's college basketball over
Notre Dame won
Thanksgiving
all 4 of
break.
their games.
Yeah, and just really going to Bimini on the company's dime, but celebrating women's college basketball at the same time, and we didn't end up going. So Buffalo, where do we stand? Who's in? Who's out? We
I'm
gotta
out.
know.
I
Bill-
just left
What?
New York. I'm not going back. It's
Well,
too cold.
I have
It
the
was 20
10
degrees last
Yeah,
weekend.
I have the 10-day forecast. 10 days from now in Buffalo, it says it's going to be 27 degrees.
Well, it's not
We're
10
going-
days from
Without
now.
wind chill.
We're going 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, we got to go. Aren't you? You're in on the Dolphins going to the Super Bowl. Don't you want to go to a Dolphins game? Cover. We'll put it on YouTube Live. We'll do something. The only thing is, I was worried at the time if we went that they would either move it to a Saturday or they'd flex it to Sunday Night Football, right? But with the previous week's game going to Sunday Night Football, they're not going to have the Dolphins back-to-back Sunday Night Football games. You wouldn't think, right? So I'm assuming it'll still be that 1 o'clock time, wouldn't it?
I would assume, yeah. But what a cool thing for the Dolphins that they're good enough and exciting enough where they've been flexed to a Sunday night game against the Chargers.
It is exciting, and I'm guessing, I don't know for sure, but Stugotz, I believe that the betting money will be on the Dolphins being 8-6 after these 3 games. That they will
probably,
be underdogs
yes.
in all. That the money will say the Dolphins shouldn't win any of those games. That they should go 0-3 over the next 3 games of the measuring trident from what Billy's calling it. But let me just read you a couple of things here. This is from Louis Riddick, Stugotz.
Okay.
Because I am curious how this will travel in snow, how this will be outdoors and on the road. This is Louis Riddick saying that Tua is leading the league in total QBR, QBR against man, QBR against zone, QBR under pressure, QBR in the pocket, QBR outside the pocket, QBR in the red zone, QBR in quarter number 4, QBR on third down.
It's pretty good.
Also, and this one surprised me, although perhaps it should not have, from the NFL on CBS, Tua's completion percentage on throws over 10 yards in the air is 67.5%. It's higher than anyone ever since they kept tracking it. Wow. 67.5%. And the last time you can find anyone doing that, it was Breeze at 62% that season when he was completing all of his passes in 2018. So he's a good deal better than Breeze was when you knew Breeze was going to complete every pass he was throwing. And they're injured now. They're injured. The offensive line is heading into some defensive line play.
Yeah.
That I fear that it's going to look more as they scored 30 points in 4 consecutive games. I don't think the Dolphins have ever done that. I fear
even with Marino?
I don't think they've ever done it. If they've done it, it hasn't been particularly recently. 30 points a game is not something that we are used to. It hasn't happened this century.
Right.
It actually has, believe it or not.
Has it?
Really?
Yeah, it was 2009. I was looking over the Miami Dolphins. They sent out like these post-game stats, and it was actually 4 straight games. You're not going to believe this. With Chad Henne at quarterback.
Get out of here.
They scored 30 points in 4 straight games.
Did they win any of them?
Yeah, they won all of them.
Really?
But also,
wow.
The Dolphins were up 30-0 at halftime in this game against Houston. And I was like, well, that surely is a record that's, stands the test of time. They were up 41-0 at half against the Houston Texans in a game 7 years ago. The first touchdown in that game was Ryan Tannehill to Rashard Matthews. And I was like, and Lamar Miller ran a 75-yard touchdown. I'm like, this team scored 41 points and a half against Houston? I was floored by these numbers. But yeah, they scored 30 points in 4 straight games in 2009. I was floored by that.
I thought Rashard Matthews was going to be so good.
Yeah.
Just based on body type.
Yes.
Yes.
All the tools.
You want to do top 5 guys you thought that were going to be
based on body
great
type?
Based just on body type? Alonzo Spellman is gonna be on there. Bo Outlaw, Orlando Woolridge.
Oh, we're doing all athletes? Any sports?
All athletes based just on body type.
Okay.
I have a disrespectful idea / question for you guys. So you know the Dolphins got flexed into that Sunday night game? I wish there was an ability to flex the announcers for that game too, right? Because with all due respect, I don't want to hear from Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth in that game. I want to have Emmanuel Acho and Colin Cowherd going up against each other calling that game. Like, that's what I really want. I want one person who is very much on each side of the, quarterback battle, just arguing their case the entire. It would drive people absolutely insane because people are getting tired of the Tua praise, which is like, it was few and far between before the season. So then all the Tua defenders are like, we need to defend Tua. And then the people that don't like Tua now hate all of the Tua defense. Because even in the stats that you read, it's like picking and choosing, right? To see where it is that he's number one. Because he's number one at QBR and third down. But then, he's not first, second, or fourth down, or we would hear that he's number one in QBR in those as well, right? So same thing with Herbert, something like, oh, he's about to set the record for most amount of touchdowns in his first 3 seasons passing Dan Marino. It's like every quarterback and every player, you can basically pick and choose where it is that they're the most impressive and then just throw those stats out there.
Well, you say this, Billy, but when Riddick says, I didn't put the last part of Riddick's tweet in, when he says Tua is leading the league in total QBR versus man, QBR versus zone, QBR under pressure, QBR in the pocket, QBR outside the pocket, QBR in the red zone, QBR in quarter number 4, QBR on third down. The part I left out was the 2 words, any questions? And you're saying, what was it on second down?
Yeah, those are the questions.
I think Billy liked being a Tua defender better when no one else was on the corner.
Oh no, I'm all in. I'm still on Tua. I just don't, and like you guys are gonna laugh at this and not believe it. I don't like annoying people, and I feel like that's the direction that
Wait,
this
hold
is
on.
headed in.
You don't like annoying people, or you don't like annoying people?
Annoying is the verb or the adjective?
What?
Explain the difference there.
You don't like people who are annoying, or you don't like to annoy people?
I don't like people who are annoying, and I don't like to annoy people. I do know that I annoy people.
Both. Okay.
I do know that I annoy people, but I don't take pleasure in that annoyment, if that makes sense.
Well, but I think if you are someone who annoys people, then you graduate to becoming an annoying person. I think those things, I don't think you are allowed to annoy people without being an annoying person. Regardless, I have not heard a lot of people tired of Tua praise when the numbers I keep telling you are obviously best in the league when 10 games ago or 11 games ago, many of us were wondering where's the proof on this is a great quarterback.
Who votes for the MVP?
It's the Associated Press.
But how many voters are there?
The AP?
I don't know. I can look that up for you if you'd like.
Because it's going to be interesting because like we've gotten to the point where you're either like a Tua truther or like a Tua denier, right? And the Tua deniers are all going to vote for Mahomes, but the Tua truthers might vote for Tua to be the MVP of the league, which is kind of crazy. Like the idea that he could finish in the top 3 of MVPs when there was questions coming into the season as to whether or not he was going to even be there week 5 is insane.
This is meant as no slight to Tua, even though Tuanon gets crazy and the comparison point of Mahomes ends up being unfair to everybody. But Mahomes has been statistically better than Tua, has he not? He's got many more throwing yards. He's got many more touchdowns as well. I've given you the overall rating. The idea that I'm even having this discussion is crazy. I mean it as no offense, but I can say that statistically Mahomes has been better, and statistically he's probably going to get the MVP vote. Can I not? Just based on what he looks like dropping back and the numbers that he's producing that aren't QBR, that are the counting stats more likely to be used by people who do this kind of voting.
Yeah, I mean, they come back at you and say Tua missed 3 games. So obviously with, a quarter of the season missed, he's going to have less numbers.
Yep.
Right, and that will probably bear itself out in the end, and that's sort of the tipping point is the counting stats will look more impressive by the end of the year. But if you look at, again, you mentioned ESPN's total QBR, I just looked up Pro Football Focus's grading. They have them basically graded at exactly the same level. And from a passing standpoint, Tua is actually slightly above Patrick Mahomes, which is insane. And again, if you look at his touchdown totals from his first 2 seasons, had 11 in his first season, had 16 in his second season, and has, I believe, 20 now, and he's only played in 9 games this season. So he is pacing so far above, and they just go out every week and flawlessly execute. I cannot have a single complaint about the way that their passing offense works. It's astonishing how well they come out of the box every week. And it's like, move the ball down the field, 75 yards, no problem, touchdown. Do it again. Come out in the third quarter because you're so far ahead of Houston.
It's not even 9 games. It's 8.5, right? Because you missed half of the Cincinnati game. And I would also say, and this really is the greatest tribute I can give it as just a fan watching games, trying to observe greatness. I am legitimately surprised every time one of their plays fail.
Yes.
And I don't want them ever running the ball. I know they succeed on running plays, but they could get more in the air. And even though they can get 9 yards on a carry, I'm like, no, just keep heaving it because I trust that more than I trust anything.
But I love that moment where I think Mostert is taking it to the house on every carry. I do.
That's
I love
fine.
when he sees a little crack and he turns the speed on. He never gets there.
Hasn't done it once.
Yeah, I know, but it looks like he's going to take it there.
Hasn't done it one time.
But he's played better lately, even though he was injured last week.
Not one time.
So, Billy, are you rooting against Tua to win the MVP because of the annoying people?
No, I want him to win the MVP. Obviously, I think it would be amazing
It'd be
if he won the
hilarious.
MVP. Yeah, I mean, particularly because we were talking to Chris Sims early in the year, and I'm like, we were joking, like he's going to be in the MVP discussion, and he laughed us off, and we're like, can you at least grant us that he'll be a Pro Bowler? And he wouldn't even give us that. I'm like, Chris, everyone makes the Pro Bowl. Like, absolutely everybody makes the Pro Bowl. You don't have to be even in the top half of the good people at any position to make the Pro Bowl, and he wouldn't give us that. So, like, that he's even in the discussion is great. But, I mean, if you're going to be completely truthful and you give everyone the choice, would you take Tua or would you take Patrick Mahomes? I mean, I think 95% of everybody, unless you're, like, completely in on Tua, would take Patrick Mahomes. But the fact that it's even a discussion is wild.
I don't think there are 5% that wouldn't take
it's
Mahomes,
like
but
99.8.
maybe I underestimate Tua.
But there is, like, Dan, there was a time where everyone would have taken Justin Herbert. And now I think you have to think about that. I think a lot of people would consider taking Tua over Herbert at this point. That's fair.
The only argument, I think, on the basis of what we've seen this season is a durability argument, because Justin Herbert took a big hit and he's kept playing through it. And Tua, even on Sunday when Armstead went out of the game, he got thrown and looked like he broke his back on a play. And it looked bad. Like, the only argument against him at this point is a durability one, because, again, from a precision, accuracy, and you mentioned those throws 10 or more yards in the air. There's sort of that level in between the first down marker and kind of 20-yard, that 10 to 20-yard
His
range.
sweet spot.
It's just insane how not only is he so good at throwing that, but it's open every time. You would think that a defense would have adjusted to the way that the Dolphins have executed offensively, but it seems unstoppable, particularly if they have any kind of threat in the running game.
I think this week it's going to seem less unstoppable given what they're going up against injured.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and from a protection standpoint, they will have to do some running of the ball, because ultimately it's born out of linebackers being closer to the line of scrimmage out of respect to the run. And I actually think that it was kind of strange to watch Houston sell out to stop the run in that game. And they actually did well. They held Jeff Wilson to 13 carries for 30 yards, but they were selling out to stop the run because they are so bad at stopping the run. They're like, all right, we can't get beat here. Otherwise, we've got no chance. But even without even an idle threat of a running game, they got no problem. They can just move the ball right down the field and, again, score 30 points by the half. I will say, though, that did you see Brandon Cooks' quote after the game?
That he knew that the game was over as soon as they ran on the field?
As soon as they got off the bus. I think was his quote. When did
That's
you know
sad.
that team is done for? I would be stunned if they won another game. They're going to go 1-15-1 this season.
But
that tie, though.
Dan, to your earlier point about them not being favorites in any of the next 3 games, the Niners are a 4-point favorite this weekend. So it's not even the odds makers are telling you, because usually when teams are evenly matched, they'll give you a 3-point, favorite at home. They're telling you they think the 49ers are better than the Dolphins, and I assume they're going to do that with the Bills. The one place the Dolphins might be favorites is in L.A. against the Chargers. Like, we'll have to wait and see.
The Chiefs were 6.5-point favorites there a couple of weekends ago. I believe that was a Sunday night game. Yeah, there were 6-point favorites at the Chargers. I know that Vegas probably thinks that the Chiefs are much better than the Dolphins, but I would guess maybe like Dolphins by 1 or Dolphins by 1.5, depending on how this weekend goes.
Did the Superchargers lose the Super in the move to L.A.? Because it was the San Diego Superchargers, and now they're the L.A. Chargers.
I think they lost that designation when Chris Berman stopped hosting NFL Primetime on linear television. I know it's still available on ESPN Plus, and also he does his fastest 3 minutes at halftime, which honestly
not as fast as it used to be. I gotta be honest.
Really?
Yeah.
It's
he's
the same
still
3 minutes.
It doesn't feel as fast.
I think it's the same. He was the last to wish me
Literally
a
the
happy
same
Thanksgiving this weekend, so it's still the same product. Yeah.
I have a question for you, Witty. So, like, let's say you were invited onto ESPN Plus yesterday to discuss the World Cup game with Chris Berman. Would you have said penis with Chris Berman? Or is it just a John Berman thing that you can't say penis?
I know this is going to sound
Couple of
like
Bermans.
I know this is going to sound hypocritical because I did say penis on our morally abhorrent halftime show yesterday, but I kind of want to get out of this game a little bit. It's just it's the thing, like, it's the thing that people know me for, and
Okay, Vin Diesel.
it's-
We've got one more ride. Come on.
It's my cross to bear.
You mentioned how rare it is for someone like Brandon Cooks to say after the game, we didn't have a chance getting off the bus. How about this from Kevin Durant, Stugotz, as he's responding to the account Brooklyn Nets 85 that's arguing, I'd argue the Boston Celtics and Milwaukee Bucks are one, maybe two major moves away from being on our level. Go Nets. This team is elite. KD is winning MVP. Ben, Kyrie, KD will all be all NBA special second half coming. And this was after retweeting his own comment from before. This Nets team is amazing. They're going to win 55 games in the NBA championship. The slow start was a fluke. Kevin Durant's response to this sought it out and answered this way. Nets got you in hell. You may need a break. This is going to break you, my brother. Believing in the Nets is going to break you. Kevin Durant's not waiting until after the game or after the season.
He's telling you right now.
He's telling you right now.
Kyrie's going to break you and your spirit and your desire to support a basketball team.
The Miami Heat have a couple of games here against the Boston Celtics, Stugotz, and I don't know how much you've been paying attention, but the Boston Celtics have been overwhelmingly good, and they have tracked along the path that winners tend to track, where you suffer the pain in youth of you're blocked at the rim by Adebayo to end one season. You get to the finals, you get a lead in the finals, and then the Golden State Warriors, a dynastic champion, take you out. You've suffered the pain, and now the Celtics look so good that Brogdon is saying he's never been on a team like this, that it is a treat to get to play basketball this way, to know running out on the court, unlike how we just finished the last segment saying Durant runs out on the court, looks around and says, oh, I'm going to break everybody's heart here because we're not good enough. The knowledge that you're great, not that you think you're great, but that you know it, and that you're playing with people who know it. Basketball becomes, and sports becomes, so fun and easy at that point. They are tracking offensively to be overwhelmingly unstoppable. And it's because they've allowed their young players to continue to get better and suffer the pain and grow through the youth.
They are averaging 121 points per game. That's insane.
I mean, if you look at recent NBA history, like, I mean, if you go back to, like, what's sort of the version of the Warriors that you think is sort of like, I mean, I think of the 2014-15 team when they first take a step forward. Their offensive rating that year was 110. The Boston Celtics offensive rating this year is 121. Like, it's insane how, like, that number pops off the screen. Like, if you're sort of like, I sort of know what good numbers look like on the NBA.com/stats page, and those numbers are ludicrous. They're ludicrously good.
Billy is laughing at you because you dare to get informed with numbers.
No, because he cited the NBA.com/stats page.
Yeah, I live there.
Thanks for the URL, bro.
Yeah, do you just type in direct URLs for all of these places you go to?
I just know, like, that one in particular. Like, I know NBA.com/stats, the traditional stats page, and then you start sort of doing filters and stuff. But, I mean, a 121 offensive rating is crazy. Like, I cannot, like, I'm going to go back and find, like, the 2012 Miami Heat, often cited as one of the most impressive teams.
Before you cite them, what I wanted to point out is LeBron James had to come back from the pain of everyone seeing in the finals. JJ Barea, you're afraid to post up. He had to go into hibernation hiding. I think he described himself as Tom Hanks from Castaway, where he grows the giant beard and is just stewing in his own suffering because he's everyone on the stage has seen, look, there's a weakness in your game. The Celtics got undone the last 3 games of the season, that close to the championship, because we were all watching and we're like, hey, you guys can't dribble. You guys turn the ball over too much. You got to protect the ball better than that. Your 2 main guys can't dribble. The pain of that brings them back, Stugotz, doing whatever it is that these guys do in the offseason, and the numbers that he's talking about, to be better than LeBron James was when he was shooting damn near 60%. He had Shaq's field goal percentage because all he was doing was taking the most efficient shots and making everything.
The 2012-13 Miami Heat had an offensive rating of 111. Again, the Boston Celtics' current offensive rating is 121. They're 10 points better offensively per 100 possessions than that team was. And this, I mean, the Ime Udoka situation had the chance to completely derail them. That happens right before the season. People cited Udoka as the reason why they took a step forward last year.
Coaching.
But I mean, you have to give
Who
credit.
is the Celtics coach?
Joe Mazzulla. You have to give him a lot of credit for for not letting the thing derail.
Udoka. You joker.
Wow, they both Jessica and Billy shook their heads sadly at Udoka.
Jarringly bad.
Coaching means so little in that sport. I am sorry. Like, someone was going to win with Michael Jordan. It happened to be Phil Jackson, but eventually someone was going to win championships with that guy. And someone is eventually going to win championships with Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Al Horford. I mean, that's just the way it is.
But, Stugotz, we just talked about an arc of them getting better. They actually, halfway through last season, were a bad team. Or like at least a bang average team.
No, they had a team meeting. They were 9-8. They started. They had an important team meeting. It looked like they'd been undone by the Adebayo block at the rim. And the second half of the season, I'm telling you, they were the best team in basketball. I thought they were going to win the championship. They're better than the Suns. They're better than Golden State, and they're even better. They're a good deal better than that this season, Stugotz.
Yes.
When Brogdon is saying out loud, I've just never been on a team like this. What a treat it is for an NBA player, he's saying, to be on a team like this.
It's one of those teams, Dan, where we were growing up, where they went through the pains, right? They went to the playoffs, they got to the finals, they lost in the finals, and it seems like they learned from that, and this is their year. Like, it seems like that. I'm not saying they're going to win the title. That depends on the health of Al Horford, but it seems like this could be their year.
Milwaukee is also exceptional.
They're very good.
And
yes.
Phoenix is surprisingly gone again because they didn't add a ton. They had the Ayton thing kind of go completely wrong in the offseason.
They lost Game 7 in a way at home that was stupefying by 50 points.
Yeah, the Robert Sarver situation, which was another sort of off-the-court thing that was meant to derail them, but they're the best team in the West again. They're the second-best net rating team in the NBA again.
They've had some young people pain as well. Like, there's always some young people pain, Stugotz. With very few exceptions, do you get a situation where a guy just gets there first year, a team that you think is good enough is all of a sudden the champion. It's almost always some suffering involved that force an embarrassment that forces these guys to get better. I'm curious, Stugotz, if you had any reaction to the news, the report that UAB is Saturdaying their coaching hire.
What are they doing?
Trent Dilfer.
Really? Wow, Dilfer dimes. I mean, oh my God. That's exciting. I mean, I can't do this today, Dan. I can't really focus on football. I can't focus on the Celtics and the NBA. This is a day of celebration. We had one of the biggest days in United States sports history yesterday. I want to celebrate it. Wittyngham, give it to me.
What? What is happening around here? Can't talk about Trent Dilfer.
Dan?
He's distracted.
What a day. Oh, what a day. Strangers. We're hugging strangers. I tried to kiss my wife on the mouth. She didn't allow me. She would be the best keeper in the World Cup.
Is it because your mouth tasted like heaters?
Yes. Hey, rest of the world, if you want to know how to celebrate a fairly mediocre accomplishment, that's how. You might say to yourselves, act like you've been there before. Here's the problem. We've never been there before. Dan, you know what the G in Greg and the B in Berhalter stands for? They stand for gigantic balls. Gigantic American balls. Not blue balls.
Oh, no.
Red, white, and blue balls. Christian Pulisic scored a goal that put him in the hospital. Why? The United States of fucking America. That's why. Dan, you know what the R And Tim Ream stands for?
I do not.
It stands for red. You know what the W
Here we
in
go.
Weston McKinney stands for?
I don't know.
It stands for white.
I think I know where this is going.
You know what the A in Anthony Robinson stands for?
I do not.
It stands for end. And the B in Brendan Aronson stands for? Blue! Red, white, and blue! Give it to me again. Christian Pulisic scored with his penis.
He did.
His patriotic penis. America's penis.
Oh, wow.
His penis that when erect turns into
No.
a bald eagle.
No, what?
The stars and
What?
stripes schlong.
What happened?
What happened?
It did what?
The P in Pulisic stands for scored with his dick.
You mentioned that already.
Captain America.
Oh, for the love of God.
What happened?
Billy, why are you just staring
The
off
P
in the
in Pulisic stands for scored with his dick.
It does.
Not a P in there.
Wait. Give it to me again.
Well, what he's saying is that scored with his dick doesn't have a single P in it. There's not a P anywhere in there.
You can't spell the United States without the U and the S in Yunus Musa.
Is this all you're going to do?
What do you mean? Chris Wittyngham, you can straighten out your knee now. Dan, you know what the W in Witty stands for?
I do not.
Weirdo.
What happened?
Hey, rest of the world. Here's how much we care. I turned on ESPN radio after the match yesterday, and they were still ranking quarterbacks. Geno Smith, number 2. If Odell Beckham Jr. signed with any team yesterday, it would have led SportsCenter. J.J. Watt somehow ending up in the team photograph. Collision course. U.S. Soccer's dead my ass. We're still 1-4 games away from that happening. Give it to me again.
Again?
Stoppage time. Felt like it lasted 9 hours. I hate that rule.
Wittyngham, how much were you hurting over there as balls kept flying into the box?
Suffering. Oh my God, the one that squeezed by Matt Turner, my kingdom.
Christian Pulisic.
Jessica, Billy, why are you looking at Wittyngham?
My kingdom. My kingdom for a clearance.
Christian Pulisic still hasn't scored a World Cup goal, but his penis has.
I don't understand how you separate those things.
Mike had this team finishing dead last in the group. The M in Mike stands for Might Hate America.
Wow.
Oh, what is he doing? I ran more like I ran into a buzzsaw. Give it to me again.
Oh, no.
Berhalter, move the fucking boats.
What?
I don't know.
Move the... Oh, what?
I don't know what happened there.
The fleet?
He can do it now. He can do whatever he wants.
Okay.
He's got big, gigantic American balls.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Yep.
Jessica's head is in her hands.
Christian Pulisic with a single goal. Congratulations on surpassing Tom Brady as America's greatest football player of all time. The 4th of July should now be called the 29th of November. The 29th of November is our Independence Day.
Is that right?
Iran, if you need a shoulder to cry on, I suggest reaching out to Chris Paul one more time. You drive a bus or you park a bus. I'm sorry I messed that one up. We drive a bandwagon. My throat is shot for the rest of the day. If you didn't hate us before yesterday, and we're pretty certain you did, you most certainly hate us today. Hate our guts. Matt Turner, that thing I said about Tim Howard, I take it back. I didn't mean it.
That was yesterday.
I know, but today's today.
Put it on the poll, Guillermo. Is today?
Is there a third football we can dominate? Aussie rules, anyone? Dan, you know what the I in Iran stands for?
Iran.
I'm going home. You know what the R stands for?
I do not.
Red, white, and blue.
It does?
You know what the A stands for?
Why red, white, and
America. You know what the N stands for?
I do not.
Nil. Hey, Iran. Take the bus out of park, put it in drive, and go the fuck home.
Oh my God. No more. That's it. That's it.
My voice can't handle it.
Jessica's head in her, I don't know, for the last 3 or 4 stanzas, Jessica has not been able to look through her hands. Her hands are covering her eyes.
I left out Christian Pulisic, gave a new definition to the term header.
It was all the penis jokes, correct, Jessica?
Well, no, there's actually one thing I'm hung up on. So are we calling the 4th of July the 20th, 29th of November, or are we celebrating the 4th of July on the 29th?
I got carried away there, Smitty. I don't
November.
know. I don't know. It's a good question. Good follow-up.
It was like, of all the very offensive things you said about Iran and this game and
what did
balls,
I say?
penis, schlong, that one really just didn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
But that's all right.
I tend to do that.
That happens sometimes. However, I am curious whether Wittyngham, as a purist who's covering all of these games and has been caring about this deeply, so deeply that he was having trouble breathing yesterday and, as you said, bending over because he was so nervous and felt so much like he was going to
His
puke.
kingdom.
I am genuinely curious, Wittyngham. Are you welcoming all aboard the loud Americans like Charles Barkley?
He's not running the show. He doubted America. He said they weren't getting out of this round.
Exactly right.
Well, he's not running the show, but his personal feelings about this is something that I'm interested in because Charles Barkley is now, he's on the basketball broadcast. He is saying, bring on France, bring on Spain, bring on Brazil, because America just got here. Americans just got here, and they're now like, okay, we're better than everybody, right? Like we now can believe we've got the youngest team in the tournament, and they have advanced to this round. They may be one of, I'm guessing, right, Wittyngham? They're one of the worst teams remaining, right? Statistically, most of the games, if they continue to play games, they will be underdogs in all of them, correct?
Yeah, so they're underdogs for Saturday against the Netherlands. They're not massive underdogs, but they are underdogs nonetheless. I think we'll see by the end of the group stage. I mean, there's only 4 teams that are through to the knockouts because the U.S. went first yesterday. So of England, the Netherlands, Senegal, and the U.S. are sort of tied for third with Senegal. But I think what we've seen from them so far in this tournament is that they're going to be able to at least make a game of it really against anybody. If they can do that to England, if they can be as defensively stout as they've been so far at this tournament, they can give anyone a genuine problem, and they have enough football quality to at least play out of pressure. To answer your question, I want everyone to, on Saturday at 10 a.m., get in front of a television and watch this thing. Give your uninformed opinions as much as you want. You know what? You might sound a little ridiculous, but go for it, man. Let's all become soccer experts for a week. I'll try. If you want my help, I'm here. I'm here to be a resource for you. But if you want to just go off, I was listening to a podcast this morning and I heard so much jargon and language that was wrong that my head was exploding, but I don't want to gatekeep. I want people to have fun, enjoy themselves, and it was so much fun yesterday at Bottled Blonde, celebrating with other U.S. fans and celebrating with Mike and with Chris Cody and Jess and Tony and Lewis and everyone that came out. It was a great time, and I don't want to be a party pooper or rain on anyone's parade for any of it.
The Blazers hired Dilfer, huh?
I didn't know that UAB was the Blazers.
He was a high school. He was a high school coach, I think, before.
He runs that Elite 11 thing.
Yeah,
that's
he's
like
done
the
that
quarterback
for
factory
like a decade.
Yeah.
Are you saying that as if it's not skipping the line?
Well, I don't know. I'm not. It's a G5 school. It's not quite the same as an NFL position, and maybe not quite the same as Jeff Saturday going from coaching high school.
It's still
football
cutting
in
the line,
Georgia
though, right?
To interim head NFL coach. But I'm also, as Witty just said, I'm not a coach gatekeeper. If someone thought that was it's certainly not the worst hire we've seen of this college football hiring cycle.
I mean, that guy is as connected to every top high school recruiting quarterback as there is in the last 10 years. I don't think that means he's getting any of them to go to UAB, but like quarterback development and quarterback progression, maybe sort of know those guys he can bring over in the transfer portal that didn't get chances in certain places. But I mean, he is connected to high school kids, to recruiting, to some of the things you want out of a college coach.
You say some of this, and you'd be right on much of it, but I do want to point out to you that Trent Dilfer has a famous quote. Trent Dilfer is somebody who is seen as being able to teach other quarterbacks how to play, even though he himself was not a great quarterback.
He also has a ring.
Also has a ring and is widely regarded as the example you always bring up on how you can win a Super Bowl without a quarterback. You forget that part.
I always do.
But this is Trent Dilfer talking about a player saying to a sports station a few years ago, "You guys won the draft. Repeat this sound in 6 years when blank is taking you to a Super Bowl or has gone to multiple Pro Bowls. You guys just did something that doesn't happen very often. You drafted Josh Rosen."
I think I read that the players there wanted them to hire the interim coach as their head coach, and then they hired Trent Dilfer. But again, not the worst head coaching hire we've seen of this cycle.
It's because it's UAB. If it was somewhere else, if it was a bigger school, we'd be complaining about it.
Look, he's starting at the bottom rung of the top of the profession, head coach.
Right.
He's starting at the one of the lower levels, though not as low as the one that Deion Sanders had to start at. And Jessica, you're not wrong in saying that. If you're UAB, what are you going to get? You're not very attractive. You haven't been any good since the days of Watson Brown when you were barely any good.
They canceled their football program like less than 10 years ago and brought it back. But it is the first time we've probably ever talked about UAB on this show. So in that sense, maybe a win for the AD.
I would say that what is happening here is for all of you to consider the whole paradigm is shifting on some of this stuff. As it becomes semi-pro football, as it becomes a place that is lucrative for so many, there are going to be opportunities for a Trent Dilfer to come in and immediately grab a job because he's a name, because your program can be doing something that garners attention or sells tickets, and you're taking a chance not on someone who's come through the pipeline, but someone who can either get you a quarterback or develop you a quarterback. Right now, even in the controversy, even if you think it's polarizing that UAB hired Trent Dilfer, that's not bad for your school either because of what Jessica's talking about. He infuses some sort of interest in, okay, we're going to care about football. We've got a football name. We've got a football name who is around quarterbacks. And I think you just got to get used to some of this stuff it's going to end up changing where more and more people like Dilfer or Jeff Saturday or Deion Sanders can just start at the front of the line.
I agree. I've started to look at guys like Dan Orlovsky, seeing where they went to college. Like if UConn hired Dan Orlovsky as their head coach, would that not be a good hire? It would be.
That would be shocking. That would definitely rankle people.
But UConn's terrible. That would be.
No, they're not.
They're bowl eligible this year.
They're actually good
Are
this
they
year.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are.
But they were coming off a couple like 0-10s,
And
weren't they?
I'm going to stun you when I tell you who the head coach of UConn is. Are you ready for this?
No, he knows this. I've told you know this. You know who the head coach of UConn is. I told you he lives in a haunted house. He says he lives in a haunted house. You don't remember this? You'll remember it when they tell.
You're I think overrating Stugotz's retention.
Yes.
Or is just listening in general. I don't think he ever heard it.
Yeah.
Never mind retaining it. It's Jim Mora.
Jim Mora Jr.
What?
Jim Mora Jr. has gotten the UConn Huskies to bowl eligibility.
Wow.
The thing about Trent Dilfer, though, you said like developing a quarterback. If you're a quarterback that goes to UAB and gets developed, you're going to transfer to a P5 school if you're any good. That's the kind of the problem. Like I think G5 schools some of the smaller ones are getting hurt the most with transfer portal NIL because there is this upward mobility now. If you do break out in one of the like smaller schools, you can transfer and there's no penalty.
Isn't there also like sort of the flip side of that is sort of the downward mobility of top recruits that don't get chances to play are looking for opportunities to play at that G5 schools?
Yeah, absolutely. And so that helps too. But I mean, the money between now like the big two, which is, the Big Ten, the SEC, and what you're going to get if you're in U.S.A. or, the MAC or one of the smaller conferences is going to get wider and wider. And I don't think, I don't know if that is really an argument that gets borne out in practice. I also don't know how many tickets Trent Dilfer sells for UAB. I don't know that.
He doesn't sell any tickets.
Yeah.
But if he wins, he'll start.
Well, wait a minute. I'd argue that we're serious about football. The announcement of Trent Dilfer as coach is going to sell you more tickets than whoever they would have gotten that we did not know.
Well, I don't. Among their fans, I mean, those are the people that are going to buy tickets, not like your average person who recognizes Trent Dilfer.
But more fans will buy more tickets.
Isn't
right?
that part of the hire, though? You're hiring a name. Isn't that part of why? Look, man, Deion Sanders is about to get hired for a lot of reasons that have to do with football and some reasons that have to do with fame.
Yes.
Well, that's kind of a different scenario because if Deion gets hired first of all, his teams have won a lot of games. So that is a plus.
And he has a track record of getting players.
Exactly. If Deion gets a Power 5 job, it's going to be because a team, an athletic department believes that he can recruit top players to that school.
And the name.
And he can win games. It's
and
not,
the name, though.
Yeah. Well, the
Right.
name is what gets the players to come. It's the name and the winning at Jackson State. Those two things combined, I think, gets you a P5 job and probably a decent one. I mean, we'll see if he ends up anywhere. There's a lot of, hires already being made for positions that maybe you think that he's, qualified to get. Like Georgia Tech, I know, is one of them because it's in Atlanta, but that is a very tricky school to win at. So I don't know. I mean, I think that there's a big difference between that and Trent Dilfer.
But I think Dilfer is a good signing because of Wittynham's previous point. If he's wired into all the quarterbacks, I think and he's got relationships with them and their families, and he can get one or two of them to come to UAB, that's a good signing for me. Because how else are you going to get a quarterback, a top-flight quarterback, to go to a school like that?
But I don't
know
relationships
that
and money.
I don't know that he's going to get them to go there, though. It's
a
pretty
top-flight quarterback on the level of
It gives
Josh
him a
Rosen?
chance.
It's a nowhere program, but yes. Does Josh Rosen have any eligibility left? We're going to do the stat of the day here with Mike Schur. You've heard me talking all week, though, about the ratings for Cowboys-Giants on Thanksgiving. 42 million people watched it, more than have ever watched a regular season football game. So as television changes, it doesn't matter. Football continues to add people as people watch less television in its organic, natural form. As it changes, still more people than ever watch football. And I ask you, Stugotz, as 42 million people watch this, tell me again why the announcers are valuable.
They just lend the credibility to the game. They're not, to answer your question.
Who announced that game?
I have no idea. I don't care. Maybe it was Nance and,
No, it
Romo.
was Kevin Burkhardt and Greg Olson.
It doesn't matter to me. I'm going to watch the game regardless. Dan, I've always agreed with you on this. But there are certain announcers that, from an NFL standpoint and from a television partner standpoint, they make you feel good about the product that you're putting out there to the public and to advertisers. And Jim Nance is one of those guys, and Joe Buck is another one of those guys, and there are just certain guys, but they mean nothing.
But you work in sports, and you've made your career in sports, and I just gave you the most watched game ever, and you didn't know who did it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I have a hot take about this. You want to hear my hot take?
Please.
Yep.
I think announcers matter more in basketball than they do in football. When Mike Breen is doing a basketball game, I'm more excited to watch that game than if Mike Breen is not doing it. I'll watch Knicks home games if there's nothing else going on just because I like hearing Mike Breen announce basketball. And I think Doris Burke is great. And I think that there's certain combos of guys or ladies who make the game actively more interesting to listen to. I don't care as much in football, and I don't understand why the contracts are the way they are in football, other than that football is $1 trillion business. But I think it matters more in basketball because there's more continuous action being called, and the people who are really good at calling the NBA add more to the broadcast than they do in football. There's my hot take.
But, Mike, if you want to watch a game, you're going to watch it regardless of who the announcer is. I actually would say hockey. I went out of my way to watch games because Doc Emmerich was calling the game because he's so good at it, or was so good at it. But you're going to watch the NBA game regardless, right?
Yeah, but Doc Emmerich in hockey is the guy, right? There are Vin Scully there's no other Vin Scully in baseball.
Gold
There are
standard.
certain people in every sport who are so good and so mellifluous in their delivery that you'll always watch. You'll always enjoy them more than anybody else. I think on the average broadcast, though, I care more about the NBA broadcasting teams than I do about football broadcasting teams.
How about baseball, the sport you love? And I should remind people again, the Pozcast. He does it with Joe Posnanski. It's part of the Meadowlark Media, LeBatard and Friends Network. It's exceptional. Baseball has these wide open spaces. Baseball also has, Mike, and you've noticed this since the advent of Moneyball, there is a disconnect in baseball where some of the announcers absolutely know what they're talking about with the new measurements, and some of them do not. And that ignorance is often on display. That difference is often on display. Who does it most well these days that you learn stuff as you're watching the game, even though you're someone who knows an extraordinary amount about baseball?
Yeah, there are fewer and fewer broadcasters in baseball who don't engage with modern advanced metrics. I think that 10 years ago, there were people who were actively fighting it during the broadcast, which is really annoying. But baseball announcing is less about that than it is about like who you want to hang out with for 3 hours, because baseball is this leisurely, slow kind of like, it's like you form friendships with baseball announcers in a way you don't with other sports. So the way that I personally evaluate broadcasters in baseball is like whose voice, what the timbre of someone's voice matters more to me. Like Brian Anderson, I think is maybe the best, at least on the national level. He's just great. Like he just is really steady. He has like an old Bob Costas quality to him, where he's just very steady and very smooth. He knows the game incredibly well. Most of them do, but he knows it really well. And he doesn't get too like insane or like excited, but he also knows when the game needs like an injection of energy. I think he's really good. I think Joe Davis, who took over for Vin Scully, is really good. He has a Vin Scully-esque quality to him, where he's just super smooth and sort of like steady and quiet. And it's just a different experience. It's more about like it's like someone's in the room with you, sort of talking to you during baseball in a way that it's not like that in the NBA or the NFL or certainly hockey.
We'll get to stat of the day in a second, but he just did something. He pronounced a word there that reminded me of that embarrassment I had on PTI, where I tried to pronounce a word I had only read in my life, and so panache became panache. I thought it was the timbre of somebody's voice because of how it's spelled. I had never heard it.
Same here, yeah.
I did not know it was the timbre, excuse me, of somebody's voice.
Makes me emotional too.
Getting it that wrong embarrasses me, and I did not know that it was timbre. I also am surprised to hear you say that with the wide open spaces that baseball has, because it's not hockey or basketball where you got to keep up, and you notice if an announcer can't keep up. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do. Baseball, the sound of someone's voice, I do not care about. What are they doing to fill the space, the giant spaces of time, is what I care about. And I mean, Boog Shambi. You also like Benetti, right? Jason Benetti? Is that his name?
Benetti's incredible. Yeah, he's really, really good at it. He's also very subtle in he broadcasts White Sox games, and he's very subtle with the way that he criticizes or comments on the action. I also think he's very funny, and he's experimental. Steve Stone does a thing where he takes one road trip off every year, and Benetti invites people to come into the booth with him in whatever city they're in. And that's when you might remember he had Bill Walton come in, and he just let Bill Walton do his crazy Bill Walton thing, and it was fantastic. And to me, it points the way toward the future, where I think that baseball needs to go more in the Manning cast direction. Like they should be having, because there's so much wide open space, they should be doing more stuff like that. They should be inviting folks into the booth that are not, baseball announcers, and they should be goofing around more. Don Orsillo and Jerry Remy. I know I'm a homer. I get it. But Don Orsillo and Jerry Remy were beloved in Boston because they goofed around. They didn't treat it like a cathedral, as you might say. They treated it like, we're going to hang out for 3 or 3.5 hours every day and we're going to have fun and do goofy stuff and make jokes and giggle. And it completely changed the way that you experienced the game, because it was almost like a morning talk show or something, where you got to experience as two guys who were enjoying themselves and having fun. And it made those games, that 10 years that they were doing games together, whatever it was, were so fun and so great. And I think that is one way that the game can open itself up to people, is to have a little more fun and not treat it so deadly serious all the time.
Stugotz, my introduction to Mike Schur was not Parks and Rec or Brooklyn Nine-Nine or The Office. My introduction to Mike Schur was FireJoeMorgan.com, something he and some other comedy writers were doing on the side. And the genesis, the birthplace of that was that you guys saw and heard how shitty the announcers were at actually being able to measure baseball. When you say it's gotten a lot better in the last 10 years, it's at least in part because 20 years ago it was really shitty, correct? You were consistently listening to Joe Morgan on ESPN be wrong about everything.
Yeah, not just him. I mean, McCarver, the guys who did all the national games were generally pretty bad at evaluating the players. We used to joke internally at Fire Joe Morgan that we would stop the site once when you saw a player come to the plate, instead of batting average, home runs, and RBI, which is what it used to be all the time, when it was like OPS and WAR or win shares or something. Like, that's when we would know that everything was okay and we could retire. But now it's pretty much what happens. Like, we were saying that as a joke, but now you might show batting average, you might show home runs, but generally they talk about OPS. They even talk about OPS plus, which is adjusted for the park that people play in and the era they're playing in. They show like really advanced stats. They show wins above replacement. Like, they've gotten the world has gotten better at this. And so there's less egregious behavior on the part of the announcers and the people evaluating the game than there used to be. In fact, it's pretty much gone. You'll still get the odd guy here and there who says, Give me RBI. That's what really matters. Docking in runs. That's all that counts.
They're right.
You'll still get that occasionally from Stugotz, for example. But
Cody too.
But generally speaking, like, people have accepted these stats and they've decided that these are better ways to evaluate the players, and so it's less outrageous than it used to be.
Start of the day, it is the start of the day. Start of the day, it is the start of the day. Start of the day, it is the start of the day. Start of the day, it is the start of the day.
Let's talk a little football.
Nice.
There are currently 57 NFL players with 2 or more interceptions. Also having 2 interceptions this year, the entire New Orleans Saints football team. Both of those interceptions, by the way, are by Honey Badger. Side note, Honey Badger a saint. Did we know Honey Badger was a saint? I did not know Honey Badger was a saint.
Yes.
Thank you for telling me.
Yes, thank you.
If they do not get any more interceptions this year, they will tie the 2018 49ers for fewest picks in the season, and will essentially have the record, because in 2018 there were only 16 games played. So the Saints, like most NFL teams, stink, and the main reason they stink, on defense at least, 2 interceptions, both by Tyrann Mathieu. Incredible.
It wasn't a stat of the day, but you threw in gratuitously, like most NFL teams stink. And I think I agree that the football, this beloved sport of ours, is 25 4-8 or 5-7 teams.
Yeah, they all stink. We talked about this in the podcast a couple weeks ago. Like, how many teams would you actually say in the NFL? How many teams, let's put it this way, would you be confident in betting on if they had a home playoff game? There's maybe 3 teams you'd feel confident. A home playoff game. Like, you would not feel confident. And look at some of the 7-4, 8-3 teams. Would you feel confident betting on the Ravens to win a home playoff game? I wouldn't.
No.
Would you feel confident In the Jets, certainly not. Would you be confident? Maybe the Dolphins are up there, but even the Bills seem a little shaky. It's basically the Chiefs. You feel confident in the Chiefs and maybe, I don't know, who? The 49ers? Would you feel confident in betting on the Vikings to win a playoff game? There's so few teams that seem like they're actually legitimately good every week.
It's fair. The Eagles are 10-1, and Chris, to answer your question, I would not feel confident betting on them to win a playoff game.
I said it the other
home.
day. Remember?
Yeah.
Huh? Look at me.
What did you say the other day that
the
you won?
Eagles were not that. They played the Packers. Remember, I was really emotional on Monday about the Packers game, and I was saying this Eagles team, while they're 10-1. I agree with Mike Schur. I don't see them as this dominant playoff team. I think they're going to struggle with they might make it to the Super Bowl, but it's no sure thing.
I mean, who is the home playoff game? Like, what is the median playoff game that is on the road? Is it like the 6 seed in each conference? Because right now that's the Bengals and the Giants. I feel pretty confident if the Eagles played the Giants at home in a playoff game that they would win.
Eagles are up there. It's Eagles and Chiefs are the two teams that I would be like, okay, I'm fairly sure they're going to win their first playoff game, especially if they have a bye. But, man, I don't know. I mean, after that,
I believe in Buffalo a lot more than most people do. I think that Buffalo at home is terrifying.
A lot of close games this year.
And
well, Buffalo at home also has the
injuries
advantage of it might be 11 degrees and snowing.
They may not have a home game, though, so...
Yeah, good point.
But when you say they have the advantage, we talked about this for years with Aaron Rodgers. The only time he won the Super Bowl is when he went on the road through a bunch of domes, because home field advantage for that quarterback is not a bunch of snow and you need to run the ball. And so, is it a home field advantage for the Bills to have Josh Allen in reckless weather?
Well, maybe not, but it depends on who they're playing, because if they're playing a team that's a warm weather team or a dome team, at least the Bills will be used to playing in that weather, and the other team might not. I mean, that's what always used to happen to Peyton, right? Peyton would dominate the regular season, get to New England, and then fall apart because it would be snowing and 31 degrees.
I guess that the way I'd ask this question is the following, Stugotz. Your Jets,
right?
Are you scared of playing in Buffalo in horrible weather? Don't the Jets get an advantage from Josh Allen playing in terrible wind?
Yeah. I mean, the Jets have a defense that can win any game. But yes, I mean, I would rather see Josh Allen, 10 below, 40-mile-per-hour winds in Buffalo than I would at the Silverdome. Yes. Yep. 100%. Yeah.
The Silverdome.
Well,
I'm just picking any dome.
That's where he played. Well, he did play his last game in Detroit.
The last two games in Detroit.
That's why he did. That's why he did that. Yeah. The Silverdome has been dead for how many years, though? 15 years, I think. Didn't we talk about buying the Silverdome?
It was only for sale for $1 million.
Yeah.
I think it was less than that.
Yeah, could have been Metal Arc HQ.
See you later, Mike Schur.
Bye.
See you, Mike.